I really appreciated that it got people into my classroom who I really trust, and I think, you know, everybody wants to spend time in our classrooms observing us, and it's just hard to always make time for it. So I appreciated that TGDS got them there, and I got really excellent, helpful feedback. Like specific concrete next steps to help me improve my practice, but also they told me things I was doing well, and as a third-year teacher in my first year in Oakland and at this school, I really needed to hear some things I was doing well, so I really appreciated them.
So I could share that I taught in Oakland for, it's my 13th year, so I've gone through the previous evaluation system, I'm not sure what that's called, and I've gotten to participate in TGDS for the past 2 years. And I would definitely, to compare the two, say this was more specific, the feedback I got. I felt like for the first time I was actually being observed, and it was a lot less punitive way, like it was really about growth rather than just giving me a number and saying, here, sign this. The scripting is really helpful because the person in the room isn't coming in with bias and, like, you know, with a preconceived. They're just writing down what you say and saying, this is what I saw, and they're tagging it and being very specific about where it meets the goals. So I definitely say this experience has been a lot more positive than what we had in OUSD.
It's extremely important to me that the observation and feedback is meaningful and geared towards helping people do what I think that they want. All teachers want and that is just to improve practice, to get better, to be able to get some information that is helpful. And so we don't want it to be a checklist. We want it to be something that really is valuable to teachers. So I'd just be interested in any recommendations you have for us, so that we are making sure that that is not the experience of anyone, that everyone is getting valuable feedback.
I think if that's the case, what needs to happen is more professional development. So if, let's say, a teacher is struggling with lesson planning, for example, and you're falling on the TGS rubric in, like, the #1 category, then there needs to be that conversation of, oh, it seems like you're struggling in these areas, this is where you fall in the rubric, and here are, you know, 3 different ways that as a school will support you in growing in those areas. And if that means, like, having a weekly conversation with a curriculum coach where you sit down and you talk about the next unit and plan a little bit together and problem solve that way and be reflective, I think that would be valuable. I was also an alternate observer this past year, and something that I found really helpful, I think, for the teachers that I observed was the fact that I wasn't an administrator, I was a peer. And if it didn't go so well, it became hey, this is just an informal thing, and this is for practice. I can come and observe you again, and we can start from scratch. And there was, you know, no ill intent in that. They were more comfortable with me, and they got to work on improving in their growth areas when it came to the end of the year observation by administrators. So I think the teachers that I observed enjoyed actually when I went to go and observe them, because it was less of a stressful thing and more of as, oh, this is practice time, and I trust you, you're my peer.
Absolutely.
Just to piggyback just on top of that, rule, the comparison from being observed under the old system is it's very much pressure. It's a lot of pressure. And you feel, you know, either you're sweating, you're worried about this student doing that, and you're trying to make a bargain with your students to, hey, please act right in this situation. But under the TGDS system, it felt like that there wasn't that pressure. It was like, you know, it's like just the normal classroom. But that's what we want to capture. We want to capture a normal classroom. We want to see people in there just doing their natural thing, not anything that's acted or scripted, but just doing their natural stuff.
I'll just share my experience with TGDS first, because I haven't shared. I'm a first-year teacher. I'm just finishing my first year. One thing, I don't know if it was mentioned yet, that I really liked about TGDS was the goal setting, because I think when you're a first-year teacher, you kind of can work on everything, and so I really like that we decided on a couple of goals, and some were more student outcome based and some were more professional, and so that was really nice. And I also was able to change my goal in the middle of the year. because I met it, which is great.
Awesome.
And so I really appreciated that, and I think what Jenny also said about like FaceTime with your principal, because principals have such a great workload that I think having those scheduled times, and they're often scheduled 1 or 2 months in advance, and so that time is cleared, and unless an emergency comes up, you have that FaceTime with your principal, which of course as a new teacher is really valuable. And that first and last observation are a whole hour, and I feel like especially for a new teacher, having your principal in your room for a whole hour, you see transitions, you see different student behaviors, and so both the length of those observations and also having the goals were really helpful.
So I think there's a couple pieces of TGDS itself and then the implementation that really ensure that it feels supportive and that it's not like a gotcha scenario, because I never felt like it was. And I think one thing I really appreciated about it is that, and hopefully I'm getting this right, the ratings are, you get your highest rating, I think, in each area. And I think that feels really good, especially, you know, because the beginning of the year, being new to my school, my first observation was not very good. So I had a lot of room to grow, but it also, it feels like a trusting system in that, you know, it's not trying to get me and give me averages or something like that. It's like, okay, here's how you did in your best moment on your, you know, in your best observation, and I appreciate that. What
I really love about this opportunity is that it is a growth mindset opportunity. So regardless of how long you've been doing something, you can always get better. And so I don't have to be, as a school leader, I don't have to be the expert in that content. The question is, how well am I, as a teacher, getting my content across to the students and helping them learn? And then how do I, as a observer, record that, capture that, and give feedback? And how does that teacher use that information to assess how they're making progress towards their goals? And so I think that's a big part for us, is getting the training right, the certification process right for leaders, so that they can have some confidence in knowing that they certainly have mastered the understanding of the framework and the ability to give feedback appropriately, and so on and so forth.
The actual being able to walk out of my classroom and go observe. So we had a STIP sub that would come and fill in that time, and that's crucial to be able to have someone that's going to be right there to be able to take over the class. So it takes preparation. So the observer is going to have to, you know, have some type of plan going on, but someone needs to step into the classroom and be able to take over, and I have to trust that I can walk away for a little while so I can go observe and then have time for conversation afterwards.
Right, and having it be a STIP sub who's always at your school makes you feel more comfortable with just like stepping out for an hour and coming back, because they know the students, right?
Trust and relationship building have come up in this conversation, and I think to answer how to bring the system to scale, I don't necessarily think it's like more computers and more trainings. I think that has to be many conversations. We use restorative justice where damaged relationships have been restored. I mean, we've already brought up parents, for instance, but there's many teachers who are either going to be new or who new to a site, so they might have to get an evaluation, but they're not new to the profession, nor are they new to OUSD. And there has to be some trust that's been restored, and there has to be some relationship building. And I think if you're going to go to scale, I think how we talk about growth, because we can go to a training on growth mindset one day in August in your buyback day, never talk about it the whole year, and then someone say, well, we did that growth mindset culture work, but not really. Like that's like, that would be poor teaching on my part if I was like, well, this was the learning target, I taught them that on, you know, August. And if I don't spiral review, I don't have any checks for understanding and come back to it or incorporate it, it's not meaningful. And I think that ways to incorporate growth mindset with regard to how we talk about students, how we talk about you know, the nice PR framing of like, this person won an award, that's great, but just so it becomes part of the culture of OUSD, where we actually feel that growth mindset means something and isn't like the latest buzzword. And so I would think more about how do I strategically incorporate that into all that we do.
Okay, so I completely agree. I think relationship building, trust building is so key, and I think one thing that was really effective that my principal did was approaching it with humility. You know, she was saying this is a learning experience for her too. So I think that was really key. I think another piece that was really important, being new to the school, and relatively new, but not totally new to teaching. It was really helpful to see my principal interact with students and to see my alternate observer. She actually modeled some lessons in my class to introduce me to Reader's Workshop. So, it was not related to TGDS, but it allowed me to see her teach, and so I was able to see she's a really strong teacher, and so I value her feedback. So I think that's really important for building trust.
If I were to think of a word to capture my experience, I got to do this 2 years, the first time as a peer observer, and then I actually asked to do it again this year and be observed because I was like, wow, I want to be a part of this and get this feedback. I just feel validated. I felt valued being asked as a 13-year-old teacher, wow, your opinion matters, and we want you to come in classes and work as a coach and help other teachers. So initially that meant a lot to me. Awesome. And then even having the principal come in, and we noticed, when you self-rate and then you meet to compare ratings, I'm rating myself so much lower than I'm being seen. So I was just, she's like, why? I can't see why you're giving yourself these 2s and 3s, Tamika. So it was just, it made me feel valued and validated as a teacher and seeing how I'm seen from an outside observer. So that felt good.
I think the SMART goal really helped me grow. It focused my my practice in a way. I created a SMART goal around exit tickets, and the earlier question about Common Core, you're doing some math tasks that might be 3 days, or there might be 5 ways to solve this problem. Under the old model, it might have been an algorithm, and so you just create an exit ticket to see if they mastered that algorithm. So it really challenged me to create lessons and to sort of figure out what kind of question I would ask to see what students had learned that day. And so the fact that it was a goal just kept that sort of in the fore of my thinking as I looked at lessons and analyzed student data. And so the exit ticket goal setting was really just helpful.
Start by, first of all, thanking you for being a part of this and coming and sharing. I think that you've shared some really good, thoughtful observations in terms of just how this has worked for you, but then also I think reflections for us as we think about expanding it. We are committed to this work. I mean, we believe that one of the most important things that we can do is invest in the development of our educators. So in this case, our teachers, as I started, I believe that the natural frame for teachers is to want to be effective and do a tremendous job for students. And we believe that investing in this work is going to go a long ways in improving student outcomes, but it's also going to be, I think, make us an attractive employer for teachers. We want teachers to be here, we want them to stay here, and recognize that we know that it's hard to do the work, but it can be something that's of great value where you feel supported.